Hello, all you beautiful humans out there. I'm very excited about today's talk. FYI, I've got my 24-year-old son and my 8-year-old son in the living room playing video games. They're aware that I'm on camera. Can't guarantee they're going to be actually quiet. I'm very excited about today's talk because we're going to be talking about petroleum or petrolatum, like that you'd like to say over in Europe. I do want to make something really clear because I saw a TikTok about this the other day. And of course it got me all passionate. And on TikTok, you can't talk to people. They get offended. But she was trying to say that petrolatum was like the clean, healthy form and petroleum was the unclean form. And petroleum and petrolatum are not the same thing. Incorrect. I Googled that thing so fast because I was pretty sure I was accurate. But before I like to stick my foot in my mouth, I like to make sure that my foot doesn't belong in my mouth. So petrolatum and petroleum are the exact same thing. Just like saying aluminium and aluminum, or herbs and herbs, or capillaries or capillaries. One is how they say it over like in Europe, and one is how they say it over here in the US. Okay. So before we get started on the talk of petroleum jelly, I do just want to connect with everyone and let everyone know that this conversation and this live is not going to be for everybody. The reason why that is because the belief in safety of petroleum has everything to do with the fact that we are trusting that they are properly cleaning it, and that our government and the governing agencies that have been created to oversee regulation are not corrupt, are not dishonest, are not deceptive. And so people who truly believe that the government never lies to us, things like that, this may not be a talk that resonates with you. This may be something that you're going to be able to accept. This is not a conspiracy theory video. I'm just going to lay down the facts. And the facts of it is we know that the chemical industries have been lying to us since the very, very, very beginning. And why would petroleum be any different? It's owned by big oil, okay? So here's the thing with petroleum and petrolatum. As you know, petroleum and petrolatum is what comes out of the ground. It's the old dinosaurs and leaves and dirt that is encapsulated deep, deep, deep below the Earth's surface that is trapped in there. And it's there for a reason. There's a reason why Mother Nature didn't give us easy access to this amazing resource, like we like to call it. What happened with the invention and creation of petroleum jelly, is when they started extracting oil from the ground, the crude oil, you know how they have those big long pumps that go like this and they bring all the oil out of the ground. Well, there's this gunk that builds up around the shaft that goes up and down. It's this black, gooey petroleum jelly. And so as many things that come out of the chemical industry that got lumped into the skincare industry and the hair care industry, is what happened is during the Industrial Revolution, they start basically dealing with all this petroleum. And they want to use it because it's this amazing resource that can burn and creates heat and yada, yada, yada. But also when they are refining it and they're doing things to it to clean it, it creates these biohazard, basically these byproducts. I'm not saying petroleum jelly is a biohazard. It is before it's filtered. Or hazardous, not biohazard, but hazardous. So what happens is they have basically all these products that are like, what are we going to do with this stuff? This is what's left over after turning crude oil into gasoline and oil and things like that. So like they can't just throw it away because it is going to cause problems in the environment. They can't just toss it out. They can't just put it in a barrel. They can't just hide it at the bottom of the ocean. So they're like, what if we did things to it and made it more pure? And then we stuck it in body care products, and we stuck it in hair care products. We stuck it in the skincare products. And we told people that it was safe because we've cleaned it and we've cleaned it and we've refined it. That is why there are so many petrolatum and petrolatum byproducts in our skincare. They didn't know what to do with them. They couldn't get rid of it because they didn't want to pay to get rid of it. There was no really safe way to get rid of it. So they found a way to keep refining it and cleaning it and then selling it back to us. That is why we have petroleum today in the body and hair care industry, okay? That's absolutely why it's there. So the gentleman who created petrolatum back in like the 1930s or 40s, I can't even remember his name, He was so insistent that it was amazing and it cured everything. He actually ate a tablespoon of it a day. He took a full tablespoon, maybe it was 2, and actually ate the stuff. Through my research, I did find out, according to the FDA, based on the guidelines of petroleum, it does fall under FDA, what was the wording they used? Technically, it meets FDA compliance for human consumption. But again, this is if it's being properly cleaned, okay? So let's get back to the petroleum jelly a little bit. So Vaseline in particular, Vaseline is the name brand of petroleum jelly. Vaseline has a triple refining process. So it goes through 3 processes that are refined. As I understand it, I could be wrong, but as I understand it, Vaseline is the only company that actually goes through these 3 processes to filter the petroleum. The problem with petroleum is it has these things in it called PAHs, which are polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. They cause cancer. There's over 10,000 of them in our world that they've found. They do always come usually from natural sources. Again, these fossil fuels deep, because they've been broken down, they're way more concentrated in the fossil fuels. But you can also find them, like they've done studies where they are found in coffee, they are found in tea. Like think about it, they are these aromatic, combustible like aromas, right? So the difference is though that like with coffee and tea, like I said earlier, there's over 10,000 of them. Like in coffee and tea, they've only found 1 of those 10,000, and they're very, 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 very low doses. So as you can see, our bodies aren't really meant to process these PAHs. They're kind of hidden away in our environment for a reason. C8, the chemical made by DuPont, that is 8. It's called C8, also known as PFAs, PFHs. It's got a couple different names, forever chemicals. So one of these PAH is known as fluorine. Well, C8, the thing that makes Teflon non-stick, it's 8 of these fluorine chains connected together. And because it's not natural, nothing occurs in these 8 chains, it can never break apart. It's in our environment forever. So let's get down to the use of petroleum actually on the body, okay? We've already kind of established that this particular resource, if you'd like to call it, isn't supposed to be out in our environment. It's supposed to be deep, 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 deep down under the rocks. We're not supposed to be sucking that stuff out. It's down there for a reason. Okay, so the biggest issue with using it on the body, whether you believe that you have you're trusting, because you got to remember that every time ingredients are made, every time a skincare, like, okay, for instance, like that doesn't have actives in it. Okay, for this one, Illuminate and Lift by Cosmetics. This has matrixyl in it. Matrixyl is an amazing peptide. It creates firming, okay? They don't claim. They put, I can't remember. I think it's maybe like 5% or matrixyl or 3% of matrixyl or something in this. Okay. And I trust that Cosmetics is doing that. Cosmetics is an ethical company. It's a great company. But no one's testing these batches to make sure I'm actually formulating it. Like when I make my eye care oil, I don't send this off to get tested. And they say, oh, wait a minute. She says there's fig oil in here, but I don't see any fig oil. Skincare is just like supplements. It's not regulated. So companies can say they are using highest quality white petroleum, cosmetic grade petroleum in their formulation. It doesn't mean they are. And if they're not an ethical company, you don't know, because no one's out there really checking to see if their liar pants on fires or not. So let's just trust that all the petroleum that is being used in body care products are completely safe. They are completely refined. The problem is that they bioaccumulate in your environment. So the reason why petroleum is used so commonly in so many products, particularly the petroleum jelly, like nothing functions like that. Mineral oil doesn't, paraffin doesn't. Like petroleum jelly is very unique, okay? It prevents transepidermal water loss, which is something we hear a ton about in skincare, especially for estheticians, TEWL. There's 2 things that they have come down to that really truly cause aging, and this is what they focus on the most in Korean skincare. The first one is environment. It's the sun, it's a death laser, and pollution. It gets stuck into your pores and creates all this free radical damage, which then causes everything to droop and sag and look like crap. The third thing So the first one is pollution in the sun, the environment. The second one is transepidermal water loss, the ability for your skin to hold on to water and not allow water to evaporate from your skin throughout the day. It's why you'll do your makeup and your skin in the morning and it will feel really good. And then sometimes throughout the day, the skin starts feeling kind of tight and dehydrated, not dry, but dehydrated. That is transepidermal water loss. Your water has literally evaporated out of your tissues throughout the day. Petroleum jelly prevents transepidermal water loss by 98%. It is literally a piece of liquid plastic being laid over your skin. When that is laid over the skin, absolutely nothing can come out of it, which is why petroleum jelly can cause acne breakouts, blemish breakouts. It can cause sweat rashes. Once it's on there, it is impermeable. Things are not going through it, which is why the medical industry can really like it, because it's inert, its molecular structure is too large, so it can't get into your body. So that's the thing about petroleum. The jelly itself is truly inert. It's a dead ingredient. It's like filtering your water and not putting any minerals in it. It's a dead ingredient that does nothing. The molecular size is too big. It can't penetrate into the tissues. The reason why it works so well at hydrating your skin is because it prevents this transepidermal water loss. What it basically does is it traps everything underneath the layer, okay? So it's not that it's hydrating your skin. It's not that it's moisturizing your skin. It's forcing your skin to heal itself. It's forcing your skin to hydrate itself. It's forcing your skin to moisturize itself. Because it's not allowing anything out, it has to stay in there. So then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hydrated. I just love this product. To counter that, mineral oil, which is made from petroleum, it's the liquid form of petroleum jelly. So you got your mineral oil, shea butter, things like that. That only prevents beeswax. Only prevents transepidermal water loss by 20 to 30%. That is why absolutely nothing replaces petroleum jelly on the marketplace. So with that benefit, because it coats the skin, it makes it feel silky smooth, okay? It gets rid of that ashy look. It completely makes the skin look hydrated, but it's not hydrating you. It's not putting anything in your skin. It's not feeding your skin at all. All it's doing is making your skin heal itself. Not that that's a bad thing, okay? That part of it is yeah, great. Why would I want to use that ingredient? The problem is that bioaccumulates in our environment. So when you take it, it doesn't go away, right? It's not just evaporating. Even if it evaporates, it's tiny little particles, then you're breathing it into your lungs, okay? So when you go wash your hair, when you wash your laundry, when you wash your face, all the petroleum rinses down the drain. It's why when you hop in the shower and you start rinsing, even though you put lotion on maybe the day before or that morning and you're taking a shower that night, and then you go to rinse and you feel all really soft and silky for just a moment, it's because the coating that was on your skin that you thought your skin absorbed, it did not absorb it. It sat on the surface. You now are rinsing it down the drain. And if it's a plant-based product, that's fine. Same with shea butter. Shea butter is too thick. There's antioxidants and things inside the shea butter that are going into your skin, but the butter itself, the molecular size is too big. It's sitting on the surface. It's trying to hold in that water. So when you rinse it off, that can also feel silky too. But that is biodegradable. So when it gets rinsed down the drain and into our waterways and all that, it's not bioaccumulating in the environment. Whereas the petroleum jelly, the mineral oil, the paraffin, all the byproducts made with petroleum, that all just goes into the waterways and it bioaccumulates. It creates problems it creates water problems in our rivers. It creates waters in our streams. So it's a much bigger planetary issue than you think. It's also why products with petroleum in them are so cheap. It's why you can get a bottle 3 times this big of Jergens for $5, because it is, I can't even, the ingredients aren't even pennies. It's pennies of pennies. Maybe the final product costs about 10 cents to make, and that's not counting the container. It's so inexpensive because it's a byproduct. That's why when people want to switch over to more natural skincare, healthier for your skincare, they're just I can't afford it, it's so expensive. Plants cost money, fat costs money, lipid costs money. Fossil fuels that are a byproduct, petroleum-based byproducts that are basically a leftover or the fossil fuel industry are extremely inexpensive. You basically are just paying for the process to like clean them so they can give them to you. Rather, there's no, you know what I mean? Like you're not paying for the oil being pumped out of the ground. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying for that ingredient having to be refined and cleaned and turned into something else. You can have a product like Jergens, for example. You can have a product, a lotion bottle, whatever, that has 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different ingredients in it. But every single one of those ingredients lead back to petroleum and petroleum. One of the things about dyes, like all these pigments, so many of these pigments come from coal tar. Like some of these are lake pigments, but most of them are coal tar pigments, which come from petroleum. That's why they're carcinogenic. That's why they say, oh, food coloring is so bad for you. It's because it comes from petroleum, just like so much of this skincare. So let me just kind of rewrap to make sure I got everything I wanted to tell you about. Again, I don't truly refined petroleum, if they're being honest and truly cleaning out all the PHAs. Truly refined petroleum on the surface of your skin is not going to cause problems. It's not bad for you. It's just like sticking a Band-Aid on your skin. It's harmless. It's going to force your body to heal itself. It's when it gets rinsed off your body that creates problems. And then again, you're 100% trusting it's properly cleaned and filtered. Even when you look up and talk about, so when I was researching Vaseline in particular, I was intrigued by the fact that they were very specific on the words they used. For instance, they said, it produces an oily film over the skin that seals in moisture. Notice how they didn't say anything about it being moisturizing. They said nothing about it being hydrating. They said nothing about it penetrating. They said that it creates a film and it creates a seal. Okay? Because that's what it's doing. That's also why they encourage you to always apply lotions and things like that to slightly damp skin. Because if you put the lotion on, the petroleum-based lotion on, mineral oil-based lotion on, over the water, it's going to trap more moisture into the tissues, therefore keeping you hydrated longer. Not because of the lotion, but because you trapped the water in there. Okay, so the other issue they talked about is, yes, it traps everything. So it's also trapping all of the oil and dirt as well. So if you're not thoroughly, properly cleaning your skin, if you're not using one of those sonic devices to literally vibrate out all of the pollutants that are trapped inside your pores, because pores are extremely hard to clean. We talk about this a lot on here. It is hand washing alone. Pollution is sticky. It gets into the pore and it sticks to our sebum inside of our pores. You can wash it away on the surface, but inside the pores is really hard to clean. It's why the sonic devices, the studies they do on them, they can clean your skin up to 11 times better than hand washing alone, because the ionic vibration like vibrates out all the pollution, oil in the pores to completely clean them, okay? So if you're not cleaning your face like that, and then you're putting on this luxurious face cream like Epionce makes really nice, higher end, they're usually over $100 moisturizers, okay? Within the third or fourth ingredient on every single one of Epionce's ingredient indexes, it's either mineral oil or petroleum, because of the fact of this sealing transepidermal water loss situation, right? So if you're not fully cleaning your face and then you're sealing it in with mineral oil, you're trapping in those free radicals. You're trapping that stuff in there. So this is why the petroleum can also be a negative, because it's not that the petroleum is aging you, but you didn't get your skin properly cleansed. You then sealed in the pollution in your pores and you slept like that. So your skin is spending all night trying to neutralize free radical damage, trying to generate. That's why you put on all these serums, right? Like I'm gonna put my antioxidant serum on, and I'm gonna put my growth factors on. The reason why you put on those all on at night is because that's when you get the best benefit from them. If your pores aren't clean and you seal it all in with petroleum, you're not going to get as good of a benefit. Okay, so there is absolutely, this is another thing I was reading on the petroleum websites, that there's no, and it was written just like this, there's no evidence that refined petroleum causes cancer. So they've never been able to link it to anything. And I believe that in the sense that, like, if they're refining out everything, like if they, test the VOCs and it's literally zero, there's nothing in it to cause you cancer. So if it's properly refined, I agree with that. But they are very careful about, they were really careful about all the wording and everything that I read on this. The last thing I wanted to talk about was that when it comes to those PAHs that I talked about, they're not easy to find. The most common way to test for them is actually to analyze tissue and urine and look for the metabolites, the things that had already metabolized the PHAs, to see if they're present in the tissue and urine. And I can guarantee you those tests, they're not doing those tests. They're not saying, hey, use this Vaseline intensive care moisturizer for 3 months, and then I want you to come in and I'm going to do a punch biopsy of your skin. We want to see if there's any PAHs in it. No, they don't do that. Anywho, that's my spiel on petroleum. For me, petroleum was always a red flag and a no-no. Even before I read information on it, it was more just a feeling I had in my body. Now with finding out that I'm autistic and ADHD, it makes sense. But for people, I have found that people who tend to be more autistic, ADHD, they can struggle with petroleum-based products because they're not real. They're not real. It's like with me, like I can't use any like nylon stuff on my body. It like burns. It's uncomfortable. I tell people I'm a textile snob. Cotton, silk, hemp, bamboo. I can't really tolerate synthetic fibers on my skin. Like winter coats and things like that I can do. But again, we have something underneath. Like I can't do it touching on my skin. Like it's one of the reasons bras bother me so much. Where was I going with that? Oh, so as somebody who's like that, I understood why, like energetically and vibrationally, I'm just like, there's something off about this product. It doesn't feel right. And then I get older and realize it's because it's petroleum based. It's why I resonate more with the natural products so much, because they're real. They're real. They're not like fake. So does anybody have any questions for me? Before I let you go, yes, this will be saved. I always save the lives on Instagram, and then within 24 hours, I try to get them uploaded on my YouTube channel for those who don't have Instagram. And then somebody asked about if I had mentioned a body product with petroleum. Okay, this is the thing that's going to be really hard for you guys. Almost everything has. When it comes to body lotion, it's why I don't use body lotions. They almost all have petroleum, mineral oil, paraffin oil. So the things that are the closest thing to petroleum that are most commonly used, that are the easiest to identify because they're not scientific terms, okay? First, you have petroleum jelly. It's the jelly form. Then you have mineral oil. Mineral oil is the liquid oil form of petroleum jelly. I can't even tell you how many body lotions that is. Baby oil, pure mineral oil with fragrance. Pure mineral oil with fragrance. Then you have what's called paraffin. There can be paraffin wax and there can be liquid paraffin. Both of those are the wax forms of the petroleum jelly. Paraffin is the stuff that, like back in the day before we had canning lids, they would actually just pour paraffin wax in the top of jars and it would seal the container so no oxygen could get in. It's also what you see. I mean, I remember paraffin so much more back like when I was younger. You don't see paraffin as much now. But it's super common in like body butters, things like that. Things are a little bit thicker. All of those are pure petroleum petroleum. And then you start getting into other things like propylene glycol. It typically is almost always a petroleum byproduct. It's also in different versions of it. It gives anywhere from being an antifreeze to being like found in almost every body lotion. Everybody's aware of propylene glycol probably. What it is, that's a byproduct. That's a derivative to the petroleum. So I have found that so for me personally, I don't like lotions because when you get into natural lotions, they drive me insane because you have to rub them in forever. They turn white and I can't get them rubbed in and it drives me nuts and they're not hydrating enough. They absolutely are not hydrating enough. So then you want to go over to the body butters and creams. You need to stay away from creams because creams are going to have more of the mineral oil. Like you're going to always find petroleum in creams. Now, when you get to the body butter category, it's gray. Got to read the ingredients. I see body butters like the body butters Trader Joe's makes. They all have liquid paraffin in them, mineral oil in them, things like that. But then there's also the body butters that are made from nut butters. Those are the best ones to use. Problem, those are the most expensive. So again, once you get into natural products, they always cost more because something had to be grown and then turned into something. They didn't take trash. They didn't go to the thrift store and make a product out of it. They didn't take trash and make a product out of it. They had to like start from scratch. So it's always going to cost more. My most favorite body cream, body butter that I've ever found that I am obsessed with and I've used for years is Josie Marin's whipped argan oil. It's called whipped body butter. Her unscented is my favorite because her scents are very sweet. That all are natural she doesn't use synthetic scents, but she does use natural fragrances, and they're all super sweet. So I just get the unscented, which truly smells like nothing. And it goes on super thin. It's extremely hydrating. The best stories I can talk about this product, that's the problem with the body butters with petroleum and the mineral oil and things like that, is they give you a false sense of moisture, okay? So they're going to make you feel hydrated. They're going to look like you're hydrated, but you're not really hydrated. So one of the things I have found when I switched over to this Josie Marin one, and I was using it continuously, year after year after year after year now, and when I go to new different massage therapists, because I do a lot, I'm a massage therapist myself, and I do a lot of, I get massages. I get a massage every other week. So I've worked with lots of different massage therapists. One of the things they always say when they first start working with me is like, oh, wow, your skin is so hydrated. That is such a compliment coming from a massage therapist because they touch bodies all day long. And I've had massage therapists I don't need to use near as much product on you. Your skin is so hydrated. I'm not used to seeing skin that's hydrated. So I've heard that a lot. And then my girlfriend, Tanya, so she has always used like Eucerin or something like that. And she's like me. She puts lotion on every time she gets out of the bath or the shower. And so I was telling her this whole spiel about Petroleum and stuff. And so I gave her some Josie Marin cream for her body butter for her birthday. She, of course, was hooked right away. She's like, oh my God, now I understand what you're talking about. After about 2 weeks, when you actually start seeing hydrated tissues, you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. She goes, but the biggest selling point for me is I went to my dermatologist. She's in her 40s. She's like, I went to my dermatologist for my mole check. She goes, and my dermatologist told me I had beautifully hydrated skin. She's like, I'm in my 40s, and I have never had a doctor tell me that my skin was beautiful and hydrated. So she's like, bam, that did it for me. And again, it was probably surprising to the dermatologist because dermatology only lives in this realm of petroleum. They believe it's totally safe, so they don't think there's anything wrong with using products that are loaded with it. So everything they recommend is loaded with it. So they finally have a client come in that's truly using something natural that's hydrating their skin. They're like, holy crap, your skin's amazing. Yeah, because the dermatologist isn't even used to seeing that. So it is a hard category. You're just going to have to start doing your research and playing with products. It's why I tend to use more body oils. This is my body oil I'm trying to get launched. But the biggest problem with body oils is people want them to absorb in more quickly. And I've never found a body oil that was truly hydrating that went in as quickly as a quickly absorbing body butter. All right, I'm going to let everyone go. Thank you so much for coming to my live. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have any questions. Mwah! Light and love to you all.